Welcome aboard Just Jets with your captain, Matt O'Leary. Buckle up and enjoy the ride.
Hello and welcome to episode number 18 of Just Jets. What's going on? I am Matt O'Leary. I'm going to be hanging out with you for the next half hour or so, talking some New York Jets football. And we have a lot to get to today. It's going to be a fun one. We have a lot of topics to get through. We're going to talk Quinnen Williams, Jamal Adams, Sam Darnold, answer your questions, all that and so much more on today's episode. Hair not looking so good, but not to worry. Haircut is coming tomorrow. Well, I guess by the time you're listening to this, haircut will happen for the first time since February. So I am amped up about that. But let's get into the episode number 18. And we're going to start off with Quinnen Williams. So supposedly, according to the New York Post, Quinnen Williams has given up Oreos and fast food. That's one of the things the article says. But it goes on to say this quote from his trainer, which I thought was definitely, it stuck out to me. I posted it on Instagram today. So he says, the trainer this is speaking says, the mental space he's in now is totally on another level. This year, you guys will see a big difference in Quinnen Williams. And I certainly hope that's the case. And I don't want this to sound like I think Quinnen Williams is a bust, because I don't. I think it's far too early to say that Quinnen Williams is a bust. He was only 21 years old last year, played a limited amount of time. Now, I think it's fair to say that I was disappointed in Quinnen Williams' rookie year. I was expecting a little bit more. He was a third overall pick. He had 15 solo tackles and 2.5 sacks. He didn't put up phenomenal numbers. He got outplayed by both Nathan Shepard and Folu Fatukasi, who were third and sixth round picks, respectively. So I think it's fair to be a little bit critical of Quinnen Williams in not reaching his potential in year one. Now, again, that's not to say that he can't do that this year and beyond. But what we saw out of him last year wasn't anything super flashy. So these storylines coming out on him supposedly wanting to cut weight and get faster, this is all good. We want more of that. I know these are the cliches. The articles come out every year. Oh, this guy's in the best shape of his life. Does it translate onto the field? And sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But I'm going to take this one as a positive, because for me, when you're drafted third overall, whether it's fair or not, the expectation has to be really high. And I know that it's because of the position he plays, and also on top of that, he was more used in a rotational basis, but the production wasn't what I expected it to be. If he takes that year two step, a significant one, this could be completely different. And to me, all along, the Quinnen pick was Mike Maccagnan just going the safe route. That's a lot of people thought he was the best player in the draft. They fell to him. A lot of people said that about Leonard Williams. I'm hoping that Quinnen Williams doesn't turn into Leonard Williams 2.0. He's an interior defensive lineman, as we know. So I wonder what his ceiling could really be. I don't know if he's going to put up Aaron Donald-like numbers. I don't know if that's really fair to estimate. Is he someone who's maybe going to be like what Sheldon Richardson was at his best in like 2013 and 14? You could live with that if that's the case. If that's what you're getting, then on every year, not just a flash in the pan 2-year thing like you got out of Sheldon Richardson, but then you could live with him taking him third overall. But if he continues to give you low sack and tackle production, and it's all, oh, well, he's double teamed and he does things that don't show up on the stat sheet and this and that, then I don't know how much you could value Quinnen as a productive third overall pick. Like, the Jets didn't draft him so that he can set up other guys to get sacks. They drafted him to be a beast on the inside of that defensive line and wreak havoc. And there were times where he flashed it. A couple of games, Philly, he looked particularly good in that game. And there were other times throughout last year, again, in smaller samples, but where he looked okay, and hopefully he can build on that. But I think if you were to sit here and say that overall you were a little bit more on the disappointed side when it came to Quinnen Williams in his rookie year, I would say that's probably pretty fair. But him supposedly working really hard, getting in the best shape of his life, really serious about year two. We love to see that. And Greg Williams is a great defensive coordinator. There's no denying that. He is a very, very good defensive coordinator in this league, has been for a long time. He can and should be able to get something out of Quinnen and get the most out of him. Now, again, he played favorite sounds like a negative connotation. I don't want it to mean like that, be like that. But Nathan Shepard and Folu Fatukasi got preferential treatment because they played better. That's probably a better way of wording it and what I was trying to say. So if Quinnen gets an opportunity and produces in it, phenomenal. That's great. That's what we want. So we're going to have to see for Quinnen out of year two. But I like all these storylines coming out of Quinnen trying to get in the best shape of his life and really, putting his best foot forward. The second topic of conversation that I really wanted to get into today, Jamal Adams. So to me, Jamal Adams just doesn't get it. And what I mean by that is I already did a video on it this week, but one of the big storylines from the week was Jamal Adams upset about the negotiations going on with Myles Garrett. So far in the 2017 draft class, yes, you have guys like Christian McCaffrey who got paid, but Pat Mahomes and Deshaun Watson have not gotten paid yet. Jamal is taking these things way too personally, man. It's not that personal. They're looking at it from a business perspective, and I understand that that's probably what he's doing too and why he wants to get paid. But they don't have to pay him right now. They don't. They're not obligated to. They have him under contract for this year. He's due to make $3 million and change this year. He's under contract for next year as well. But, and then obviously after that you can franchise tag him. But this would be a completely different conversation if we are already in 2021 and Jamal's like, hey, I want a new contract. Then you say, okay, yeah, going into year number 5 in the league at that point, sure, we'll do the new contract. I can get that instead of the 5th-year option. Because that's usually how these things work, right? Unless you're somebody who's normally a quarterback. I guess McCaffrey's an exception, but he is someone who could put up 2,000 plus yards combined rushing and receiving, which is very rare. And I understand that Jamal Adams is an exceptional talent. Yes, he's a safety. He can do a lot more than your average safety. He can play in the box. He can rush the passer. He's good in coverage. But he's not going to get whatever Myles Garrett's about to get, which is going to be $20+ million a year. It has to be $20+ million a year. Jamal's not going to get $20 million a year, especially from Joe Douglas. It wouldn't make sense to do it. Right now, the highest paid safety in the league is like $14 million and change over per year. If you want to give him $15 million, $16, $17 million a year, okay, yeah, make Jamal Adams the highest paid the highest paid safety in the league. Pay him $17 million a year. I'm fine with that. But 20 or upwards of 20, which is allegedly what Jamal Adams wants. He said he wants a $100 million contract. 5 years, $20 million sounds about right what he's asking for. The Jets would be dumb to do that right now. Why would you do that? There's no reason to do that to yourself as of right now. You can get one more good year of Jamal Adams at under market value, and then you pay him the $17 million a year, whatever it's going to cost to have him around. Is this him just not wanting to be here and having these high demands so that he can get moved? Is that the play? Because as of right now, if that's not the play, right, let's operate under the assumption that that isn't the play, then what this says to me is that Jamal Adams just doesn't get it. He doesn't get it because from the Jets' perspective, it makes zero sense. From the team perspective, why are you going out of your way? The only answer that I've gotten since I made the video the other day was, well, he's played well. He's earned it. Okay, he's going to get paid eventually, but he's not due to get paid yet. Why? So after the 2018 season, when Pat Mahomes goes off in his second year, and he was making, pennies on the dollar, Chiefs got to pay him now. He's playing, at a level that's not worth it. Well, that's what you're signing up for, man. When you get drafted, you have to sign your rookie contract, which is usually a 4-year deal, and you get the 5th-year option on top of that if you're first-round pick. Jamal Adams knew that when he was being drafted. I don't understand. I know that Yes, if you're looking at just market value as of right now, Jamal Adams is better than a $3 million player. That's a given. But he's going to make up for that. Probably next year when he signs. And when he's the highest paid safety in football. I don't see, why do you have to pay him right now? Other than that he wants to get paid. What's the reason to pay Jamal Adams right now? There isn't a good answer than to just appease him or make him happy. Which is nuts. For what? Why are you doing that to yourself? There's no reason. It's not like he is leading your team to 12-win seasons and beyond. And I know that's flawed logic. I get that. I really do. But you take Pat Mahomes off the Chiefs and put in a replacement level player, they are not the same team. Not even close. If you take Jamal Adams off the field and put in a replacement level safety, does their win total change that much over the last 3 years? They went, 5-11 his rookie year, 4-12 the year after that, and 7-9. Are they drastically worse without Jamal Adams on the field over that span? Maybe they lose 2 more games over the 3 years? And I like Jamal Adams. I don't want this to be like me bashing Jamal Adams. That's not the case. I like him. I want him to be a New York Jet. I think he is a top 3 safety in the league. But am I going out of my way and giving him $20 million a year right now? No. That just makes zero sense. I can't see why anyone would want to do that. So lastly, before we get into the voicemails, I want to talk a little bit about Sam Darnold. He is leading the offense down in Florida right now. Some names who are there. Le'Veon Bell is there. New wide receiver Denzel Mims is there. We've seen Braxton Berrios there. And I know this is very reminiscent of Jets West, which was the Mark Sanchez thing when he would have, offensive members go out to California with him and they'd practice. This is very, very reminiscent of that. But it's cliche, but this is a good thing. This is a really good thing. And I know all we've seen is some, social media videos, but Sam seems to really be showing some leadership here. And I don't know if it's like Adam Gase or Dowell Loggins or whoever being in Sam's ear, like, hey, or even Joe Douglas, hey, you're doing this kind of thing. We can't get involved, but this is what's going to happen. Or if this is Darnold taking this initiative on his own. There's really no way to know. But on the surface level here, Darnold is running the show, right? The quarterback is running the show, and it looks like he is directing the plays out there and all that stuff, which is great. Yes, he's only 23 years old, but he has to take the reins a little bit. And we saw that last year, really for the first time in his career, when he went to Adam Gase to talk about the offense. After the loss in Miami, I'm pretty sure is when it happened. He went to talk to Gase and was like, hey, this isn't working. What could we do to make this better? And Adam Gase was like, yes, finally, like, this is good. This is what we want. It's a little bit of challenging and stuff like that. But Sam has this reputation of almost being like too nice of a guy. Like in his first year, he didn't really bat an eyelash. He wasn't as a headline for any reason. In year number 2, the mono thing really didn't help, but that's not really his fault on the field. He took his lumps, especially in the Patriots game, but for the most part, he's just someone who goes out, does his job. Yes, he wears a C on his chest as of last year, but how much of a captain was he really, I think, was something that came into my mind, just because, the kid was 22 years old, and you're in a locker room with guys who are 30 years old. How much of a leader can you really be was my question anyway. And I could be completely wrong, right? The quarterback has to be the one kind of in charge, and I'm sure he understands that. But going into year 3, I like to see him taking the reins a little bit more because that's all part of the developmental process. I think that's the point that I was trying to get out here. I'm not doing a very good job of it, obviously, but that going into year 3, Sam is expected to take another step forward. And at that next step forward, you'd expect him to be like, okay, this is our franchise quarterback. We're fine. So by him doing this, kind of is the building blocks around that point. I don't necessarily buy what I was saying earlier, that this is a Adam Gase or Dowell Loggins or from higher up saying like this is what we're doing. I think this is something that Sam realizes has to be done. And in these weird circumstances of COVID-19, he's going out and doing it and getting the work in with his guys. And you love to see that because maybe training camp isn't going to be the same this year, right? Maybe it is going to be a little bit weird or a little finicky. So get in as many reps as humanly possible. Go work out with the guys on your team. That's great. I'm all for it. More of this. This is really good. So I just wanted to, say that I'm proud of Sam Darnold for that. And that storyline really made me happy. So those are the three main storylines I wanted to touch on this week. We're going to get into the voicemails right now. All right, first voicemail. Didn't get a name on this voicemail, but we're going to talk about wide receivers. So let's hear from caller number 1.
Hey, Matt, go Jets. I'm a lifelong fan, longer than you're alive. Quick question. I'm watching your podcast on grading Joe Douglas and adding wide receivers. What about a guy like Teddy Ginn to fill the void of Robbie Anderson? I get it. He's definitely on the downside. But, I'm just spitballing. Anyway, yeah, Jets, Jets. Good luck. And, hey, don't apologize for critical thinking. You need to do that. Otherwise, we're just blowing smoke and wasting our time.
Amen. Love that last point. So Ted Ginn is signed with the Chicago Bears. So I obviously that's not going to be the player, but I understand where this caller is coming from. Adding another wide receiver body in here seems to make sense. The guy that I would lean towards is Taylor Gabriel, who I think would fill a similar role to Ted Ginn. He's someone who's on the smaller side and speed. So I get that. I definitely think the Jets have to add another wide receiver body in here. So whether it's signing a wide receiver like Taylor Gabriel or maybe through trade, I think it would be important to add another body in here. So I'm along the same wavelength so far. Next one's from Jamal from Brooklyn. It's a little bit of a longer one, but we're going to go through the schedule a little bit, so it'll even itself out.
Hi, this is Jamal Adams calling from Brooklyn, New York. I have a question about the 2020 schedule going on. Now I'm looking at the schedule, and half these teams on here, I see that the Jets can actually win these games. Now you say that we might go 7-9, 8-8.
Yep.
But I actually see 11-5 here, and I'm gonna break down the schedule real fast.
Optimistic. Okay, let's say.
The Buffalo Bills, I see that we can win. With a little bit of motivation, we probably could beat the 49ers too. Maybe we lose that game. At the Colts, I see that we can win, definitely. At the Broncos, versus the Broncos, we can win that game. Cardinals, we definitely can win that game. And the Chargers, we definitely can win that game. Again, with the Buffalo Bills, it's probably a lose-lose. Maybe we might lose the game, most likely, but we still can win that game. So I'm giving it 2 losses so far. At the Chiefs, it might be a tough one, but we probably could pull that one off too.
On the road in
gonna
Kansas
suck
City?
this year without Brady, definitely. The back-to-back games is the most important with the Dolphins coming off the bye week and playing the Dolphins again. I think we can win both those games.
Okay.
We beat the Raiders last year, so we definitely can win. We definitely could beat the Raiders again this year.
I'm with you there.
Seahawks might be a tough one. But we might lose that game. I don't know.
You're not going on the road.
At the Rams, they might improve this year, so we might lose that game too. Versus the Browns, we could. It's a statement game, so I think that Sam Darnold could pull that one off. And at the Patriots, we're definitely going to win that game too. So all those wins right there, we're definitely a playoff team. I'd like to let you know, when you break down the schedule, how do you see it also? So thank you, Matt Larry. I watch the show all the time. Keep doing your thing, brother.
Thank you. Appreciate it. And I love the optimism. A couple of things I disagree with you on, because I have them going 8-8. That's what I did in my in the video when the schedule came out. I did a video and went through the schedule. I have them at 8-8. I think they're probably somewhere a 7-8, and on the good side, maybe a 9-win team. Where I disagree with you on, I definitely don't think the Jets can go on the road and beat the Kansas City Chiefs. That is a very difficult place to play, and that offense is just. It's not built to the Jets' strength. Yes, the Jets are going to be good defensively, but they have a ton of big bodies. Whereas the Chiefs' offense is all about momentum, quick, keep the ball moving and getting the ball downfield. I don't think that really matches up well against what the Jets are planning to do. Now, when you talk about the Jets being a good matchup against the Bills, I kind of agree with that because what I was just talking about on the contrary about the Chiefs is like the exact opposite of what the Bills like to do. They like to run the ball, and they have essentially a running back playing quarterback in Josh Allen. And we saw what the Jets were able to do against Josh Allen for 3 quarters in Week 1 before Mosley got hurt. So I think they probably split with the Bills. I don't think they're going to get swept by the Bills. I don't think they sweep the Patriots, dude. I'm going to say they split. I think they split with each one of the teams in the division. I really do. They haven't been over 3-3 in the division since 2010. So I think it's asking a lot of this team to have a winning record in the division for right now, as they're currently constructed. They're still a flawed roster. So I think best case scenario, they're a 9-win team. I don't think they can get to 11. I like the optimistic, but I'm just not really sold on it. Next one is, I believe, Gil from New York.
Joe from New York. I would like to talk about Le'Veon Bell. Do you think we can keep him after this year if he bounces back with a 1,000-yard season? I really hope he does. I love the man. Thanks, Doc.
Yeah, I really hope he bounces back too, and thank you for the question. For me, here's the thing with Le'Veon Bell. If he puts up, let's say combined, right, 1,600 yards, then I'm bringing him back. I think it makes sense. But if he puts up another, and that's combined rushing and receiving, but if he puts up another year and it's like 1,200 maybe, or 1,200 or less, then I think they would probably move on from him at that cost. It's just, I don't know how you are going to have a running back who has, at that point, it would be back-to-back years of under 1,000 rushing yards at like a $13 to $15 million cap hit. That just doesn't make a lot of sense cap-wise. But if he goes back to being Le'Veon Bell of old, then great. I'm all for it, man. Bring him back. Why not? But if I was betting, I would say he's probably not going to be on the roster in 2021. Next one is Elias from Rochester and wants to talk about Cameron Clarke.
Hey, Matt, it's Elias from Rochester. I was curious what you think Cameron Clarke, the tackle we drafted from, I believe, Charlotte, and I think it was the 4th round, what you think his role can be. Do you think he could potentially be the right tackle of the future for the team, or you think he'll maybe just slide into guard next year when I believe Van Roten is a free agent? All right, thanks, man. Go Jets.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for the question. So I definitely think he's a candidate to move to guard at the next level. I expect him to be a backup this year, maybe get some reps in here, but ultimately I'd be surprised if he's not starting in one of the 2 guard spots next year. I think that's the plan, is to have him develop, and then long-term, Cameron Clarke and Mekhi Becton on the left side with McGovern in the middle. Now we're on to something a little bit. Now we're cooking along on that offensive line. So that's where I kind of project Cameron Clarke to be. Backup for this year and then a starter in 2021. That's what I'm thinking a little bit. Next is Ty, and he's calling from Pennsylvania and wants to talk about some depth at the wide receiver position.
Hey, Matt. My name's Ty. I'm calling from Pennsylvania. I really enjoy the show. Look forward to it every week. Thanks for doing what you do. My question is in regard to some of our depth wide receivers from last year, from last season, in particular Vincent Smith and Braxton Berrios. Both were okay depth pieces. I wouldn't say either were good or great or anything like that, nothing to write home about. But Braxton was useful for special teams purposes. Our special teams unit was pretty solid last year. I mean, we were coming off of a more explosive special teams unit coming from Andre Roberts, and then we let him go in the off season. But Braxton Berrios, by all means, did a decent job, and he had the one pretty long reception against the Raiders. Other than that, I can't really remember him catching a ball. Vincent Smith, I think he fits the narrative of Joe Douglas in saying that speed
Is he going to get it?
What was the saying?
Come
Speed
on.
builds pressure, pressure bursts pipes.
Got it.
He's a pretty quick guy.
Got
We
it.
used him on some end-around stuff, some trickery last year, and he had a few receptions. I'm optimistic about Vincent Smith. I like his quickness. I like his hands. Nothing crazy last year. I just have a feeling about him that he's going to flash a little bit this year. But I wanted to ask you, where do you see these guys falling on the depth chart this year, now that we have some more competition coming in from Denzel Mims, was it Kager, the
Cager,
undrafted
yep.
free agent, or the undrafted guy from Georgia, I think it was.
Yep.
And then also just the free agents that we picked up this year, and Rashad Perryman, and I forget some of the other names, but
That's
where are
pretty
these
much it.
guys going to fall on the depth chart, and what can we expect from them going into this upcoming season? Sorry for rambling on a little bit there, but
You're good.
I'd like to see what your opinion is on these guys and what you think we'll see from them in the upcoming season. Thank you. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you so much for the question. So, all right. As far as the top of the depth chart, I'll just go through a little bit quicker and then go more so on Vincent Smith and Braxton Berrios, because that's who we spent the most time on. So I think your de facto number one is going to be Perryman. I think he's probably going to put up somewhere between 700 and 900 receiving yards. Denzel Mims is going to be the second wide receiver on the outside, at least. I'm going to guess he's going to be between 600 and 800 receiving yards. As for the slot, that's going to be Jamison Crowder. He had, I believe, high 700s in receiving yards last year. He's probably somewhere between 600 and 800 receiving yards also. After that's a crapshoot. I think Cager has a pretty good shot of making this team and being the fourth wide receiver behind those three. I do. But Vincent, as far as the other two, I see Braxton Berrios more as just a special teamer. I know he had that one play like you mentioned, but I don't think he's going to be a real threat in the receiving game. Vincent Smith, I think a lot of people are high on him. You're not the only one I've heard that from. I would probably like to add another veteran into this group. I don't know if I would really trust going into the year with Vincent Smith as the fourth option. I don't think Josh Doxson really makes the team or has that big of a role due to injuries in the last few years. So the bottom of the barrel is going to be interesting. I'd probably say it's going to be between Cager or Vincent Smith. I don't know if Josh Doxson makes the roster. I'm really not too sure if he makes the roster. So hopefully that answers your question. Next up is Liam from Manhattan, and we're going to talk a little bit about favorite Jets.
Hey, Matt, it's Liam from Manhattan, and I'm actually not in Manhattan right now. I'm in South Carolina to get away from Corona, and I also have a baseball tournament down here.
Oh, dope.
So that's what I'm doing. I was just watching your top 5 free agency signings of all time for the Jets, and that got me thinking not necessarily who's the best, but who is your top 3 favorite Jets players of all time.
Ooh.
And thanks. Have a good day.
Okay. So thank you for the question, Liam. This is an interesting one. So for context, I'm 25. So I grew up watching the Jets in like the early 2000s. That's kind of where I come into play. 98, I was only 3 years old, so that doesn't really matter too much to me. I didn't know what was going on. But from like 03 is when I really started to get into it at 8. So I would probably go Curtis Martin's up there. So Curtis Martin is probably 1. This next guy is just someone who I always really liked a lot, and that's Sean Ellis. His jersey is actually signed, hanging up right there. I met him. He's a really cool dude. Nice guy, and for whatever reason, I just really liked him a lot. I know John Abraham was probably the more flashy of the two, but Ellis was just solid, man. He was steady for a long time on this Jets team. I really liked him a lot. Number 3 might be Sam Darnold. I don't know if I've defended somebody as much as I've defended Sam Darnold. And also, from around 2003 onward, I haven't seen all that many great quarterbacks, right? Like Chad Pennington, he had a really great year in 2002 and then kind of was getting hurt a little bit after that, and they moved on from him after 2007. Had about 12 games of Brett Favre, which was good quarterback play. The 2015 Ryan Fitzpatrick year. Sanchez in the playoffs. But Sam has flashed some things that I've never seen a Jets quarterback able to do. So I think that's what makes me most excited. I know that he's probably the most chalk answer out of all these guys, but if I had to say my three favorite Jets are probably Curtis Martin, Sean Ellis, and Sam Darnold, honestly. So thank you for the question, Liam. And let me know, guys, in the comments, who are your favorite Jets? Next up is Vinny, and we're going to talk about Darnold.
Hey, Matt, it's Vinny calling in once again. I love the show every week. Keep up the good work because I really look forward to it every Monday. So something that I saw today in the media, a story out of Bleacher Report from a writer named Gary Davenport. I don't know if you saw it yet or not. Quote that came out, I'm just going to read it to you. It says, Flacco might not be a real threat to unseat Darnold this year, barring a catastrophe. But unless Darnold shows significant improvement this season, there's a chance the Jets will decide if he's not the franchise quarterback they hoped he would be.
I don't buy it.
And what can I say? I mean, they're already ready to give up on this kid. He's a baby going into his third year. I don't know what they expect him to do this year when you just retooled the offensive line. He's never had a go-to receiver. He's never really had decent playmakers around him, and they're expecting a miracle. And I feel bad for him, honestly. I mean, he's been cursed with two of the worst coaches in franchise history. I mean, never mind the Jets. Let me take that back. Two of the worst coaches in the history of this league, in Todd Bowles and Adam freaking Gase. I mean, let me just say this. If the franchise is going to make a decision, I'm ready to give up on Adam Gase before I give up on this young kid. Love to hear your take on this one, and go Jets.
Love that passion, my man. You're preaching to the choir on that one about Adam Gase and Darnold. So here's my take on that whole situation. I don't buy it. I think if Sam Darnold either A, struggles, or B, puts up about what he did last year and doesn't take like another step forward, and the Jets go, I don't know, let's say 6-10 or 7-9 again, then Gase has got to go, man. That's it. That, to me, if he doesn't make the playoffs this year, he's got to go. But I don't think the Jets are going to do that. I think that if he's, I'm going to say 8-8 or better, he's back. But if he's under 500, I'll say he's probably not back. Yeah, I think with Joe Douglas, who I really trust, I believe in Joe Douglas a lot, which is what we're going to get into with the next question, by the way. But I think with Joe Douglas having a longer-term contract, he has more of the say. I understand he was brought in here second, but I think that's a little bit overplayed that Adam Gase brought him in here. I'm not so sold on that. I'm really not. I think that Douglas is smart enough to realize that if they struggle again, that it's probably not the 23-year-old quarterback and more likely the very below average head coach who's proven to be a very below average head coach since, I don't know, 2017. I don't know. That's my take on it. I think they'd be more willing to move on from Gase than they would from Darnold. At least that's what logic says, right? That's a logical decision to go, but we'll see. Hopefully they don't. Next up is Drew from North Carolina, and like I said, we're going to be talking about Joe Douglas. So let's hear from Drew.
Hey, Matt. This is Drew from Charlotte, North Carolina. I just want to talk a little bit today about the head coach and the GM. In the past, and for as long as I've been a Jets fan, I've only fell in love with one head coach or GM.
Okay.
And the one head coach that I fell in love with the whole time, obviously, Rex Ryan. For obvious reasons, led us to the championship with a bum of a quarterback. And I don't want to hear how good Mark Sanchez was in those playoff runs. I don't want to hear it. Sam Darnold is far better than Mark Sanchez ever was. But the only GM that I fell in love with as a Jets fan is Joe Douglas. Do you feel the same way is my question. Have you fallen in love with Joe Douglas like I have? That's my question. Thanks.
Yeah, I think you've hit this pretty much on the head, Drew. I agree with you. Darnold is a significantly better quarterback than Mark Sanchez. And I was a Sanchez supporter for a large part of that era. I thought that after the 2010 season that they would have been able to build off of that into year 3 they kind of retooled that team on that offensive side and got significantly worse. He didn't help himself, Sanchez, but I think the Jets really hurt the development of Mark Sanchez. Again, story for another day, but the point remains the same, that through the first 2 years of their career, no question. Obviously, we know Mark Sanchez went further in his first 2 years, but Sam Darnold looks miles better than where Mark Sanchez was through the first 2 years of his career. I'll give you that for sure. With Joe Douglas, though, yes, I'm with you on that one. Yes, I really, really trust this guy. I do. I think he's going to be a good general manager. He's come from two really good organizations when it comes from roster building, in the Ravens and the Eagles. Both of those teams are always in the mix. They're always in the mix. The Ravens are good all the time, for pretty much since they've been in existence, since they won the Super Bowl the first time in 2000. When have they ever been like really bad for a sustained period of time? Never. They're always in the mix for the playoffs. The Eagles, the same thing, man. They're always in the mix for the playoffs. If the Jets can get to that point, that'd be phenomenal. That would be great. All for that. And I think what we saw from his draft class this year, what he was doing in free agency, which to me, with all the one-year deals, that kind of shows that he's using this year as an evaluation. He wants to build through the draft. And some of these guys who he signed to one-year deals, yeah, he's probably going to re-sign those guys. But he just wants to see who the long-term building blocks are and who's not, which is completely fair. But I really do trust Joe Douglas a lot. And he's probably by far my favorite general manager that I've seen. By far. I mean, the choices aren't great. Mike McCagnon was awful. Idzik was really bad. Tannenbaum had some moments, but at the end was bad. And who was before that? Bradway? Or what was his name? It's like Terry Bradway? I might be wrong there. But nonetheless, by far, favorite general manager. I'd agree with you that Rex Ryan is probably my favorite Jets coach that I've seen. Eric Mangini's a really close second. I thought he really got the raw end of the stick and was very good at finding talent. Very, very good at finding talent. Herm, I was lukewarm on. I really never a fan of Todd Bowles. In his first year, when they went 10-6, I thought he showed some signs of mismanaging games, and that really it just fell apart in 16, 17, 18. We know that. And Gase, my feelings have been said numerous times about Adam Gase. I don't need to rehash them, but I'm with you on that. Definitely a big fan of Joe Douglas and the future of this Jets team. Next up is Charlie from Virginia, and we're going to talk about trading Jamal Adams.
Hey, Matt, it's Charlie from Virginia. I just had a question. So if we trade Jamal Adams for a first round and a third round pick, would you rather do picks or say a player who's worth a first round pick plus a third round pick? All right. Hope you get to my question. Enjoy your videos. I enjoy your videos. Bye.
Thank you. Appreciate it, my man. So, see, I think I might do it for a first and a third. I might. Second, if that first can turn into like Yannick Ngakoue, now we're cooking. I don't want to trade for someone who's like in his upper 20s, but someone who's like 25 and who could push for double-digit sacks every year. Yeah. I might do it. I might. You might be able to sell me on Yannick Ngakoue in a third. You might be able to sell me on it. I think I'd get behind that. So, yeah, give me the like, it has to be someone who's like 25, though. Again, I don't want to trade for someone like 30 years old who's like going to help a win now team. I'm talking about a young guy who could be here for a long time and a pick on top of that at a more premium position like edge. Probably do it. Next up is JJ from Alberta, who wants to talk about Jamal Adams.
Good day, Matt. JJ from Alberta, Canada. I've been a Jets fan since 1985. This Jamal Adams guy, he's got to go, man. He's being selfish. If he is what he says he is, he would wait and not be acting like a little baby. He's the only bad apple on the team right now. Get rid of him. We don't need him. We need chemistry on the team, and he's thinking about one person himself. Yeah, he plays with heart and all that kind of stuff, but no, we don't need him. Anyways, Take care, brother. Bye.
Yeah, thank you so much for the question. Really appreciate it. As one of my lights went out if you're just watching the video, so if something changed, that's why. Anyway, with Jamal Adams, I get the frustration. I really do. I think he's being selfish to an extent right now too. I don't think, like I said earlier in the video, I don't think he gets it. I really don't. If he did, then we wouldn't be having this conversation right now. But I don't think he gets it. The Jets don't have to pay him right now. He doesn't. They don't. There's no reason to. Now I'm not selling him for peanuts or pennies on the dollar. If someone's going to give me good value for him, I'd think about trading him. But I don't know. If it was up to me, I would just wait till after the season and get a deal done for $16 million a year. Make everyone happy at that point. But I'm with you. It's getting a little frustrating for sure. Next one's Logan from Connecticut wants to know my top 3 Mike Maccagnan moves.
Hey, Matt. This is Logan from Connecticut. And last week on your show, you touched on how it was 1 year of full Joe Douglas as the Jets GM. But that also marked 1 year without Mike Maccagnan as the Jets GM. So looking back on that time as fondly as we can, I wanted to know what you think his top 3 moves as the Jets general manager were in his time. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you for the question, Logan. So I would say this. My first one is going to be trading up in the 2018 draft. So moving up from the 6th pick to the 3rd pick. It was an aggressive play. It was a necessary play because you knew how many teams were quarterback needy. Obviously, the Browns had the number 1 pick. We didn't know at the time if the Giants were going to go quarterback, but you were making sure by moving up to 3 that you were going to get at least one of the big 3 guys. And they were able to arguably get the consensus number 1 overall pick going into the draft. Everyone said Darnold was going number 1. Everybody was saying it until the day of the draft when the rumors started coming out that Baker could go 1. I thought they were trading up for Baker Mayfield, and I would have been fine with it. If they drafted Baker Mayfield, great. That's the guy that I wanted because I didn't think Darnold was going to be there. But if it was between Baker, Rosen, or Allen, I wanted Baker, Rosen, and Allen in that order. That's how I would have did it. But with Sam Darnold sitting there, makes a ton of sense. So that would be number 1. The second one is trading for Brandon Marshall with a 5th round pick. Phenomenal move. I know it ended really bad, but he put up a great year in 2015. We haven't really seen too many Jets wide receivers put up numbers like that. It was truly off the charts. And just for that 1 year, yes, it's worth swapping out the 5th round pick. And with his draft history, we know that was not going to turn into anything. Last one's a more recent one, signing Brian Poole. He was phenomenal. He was arguably the best slot corner of all of football last year. And he got him for a relatively cheap deal. That was, to me, those are his top 3 moves. Trading up in the draft in 2018, trading for Brandon Marshall, and signing Brian Poole. To me, those are his 3 things that he could lay his hat on. Last one's Ian from New York City. We're going to talk about Larry Warford and why hasn't he signed yet?
Hey, Matt, Ian from New York City. I had a question about Larry Warford and the offensive line. Why hasn't he been signed yet? Is there some underlying issue that we don't know about? Do we know if the Jets have any interest in him at all? And do you think it would be replacing Brian Winters, a guard with at least some chemistry with Sam Darnold, with Larry Warford, who's a Pro Bowler for basically the same amount of money? Thanks so much. Talk to you soon.
Yeah, I really appreciate the question. To me, it's a no-brainer. I'd bring him in here. He's a significant upgrade over Brian Winters by a long shot, and you'd only have to pay him maybe $1 million more than what you'd be paying Winters this year, who there's a really good chance he's not going to start this year, Brian Winters. And you could pay Warford $8-9 million this year, get him in at a Pro Bowl level starter. To me, it's a no-brainer. Some of the things that I've heard is that he's on the slower side and that the Jets don't want to go on more the slow route. They want to go more speed, up-tempo. I get that, but to me, it's not like Brian Winters is a burner at guard, right? He's not significantly athletic. I don't know. To me, it's a no-brainer. I would sign Warford in a second. The fact that he hasn't signed is very bizarre to me, but there's some really good guys left out on the market, so who knows? It's been a weird offseason, no doubt, but I don't know. I think, to me, I would definitely sign him. That's going to do it for me for episode number 18, man. It was a lot of fun talking with you guys. It was great. I say it every week, but I look forward to doing this. It's like my therapy session. I just sit back, relax, talk some New York Jets football, answer some questions, man. It's a lot of fun. So make sure to subscribe wherever you are watching or listening to this. I really appreciate all the love and support. It truly means a lot. I'm not just saying that. I like doing this, but the fact that people like hearing this, it really does mean a lot to me. So I don't want that to go unknown. I do really appreciate the support. It's a lot of fun doing this, and I'm going to continue to do it for a while, hopefully. So thank you so much for tuning in today to episode number 18 of Just Jets. Once again, I'm Matt O'Leary. I'll talk to you next time.